Hey, welcome back to the TF Cast. I am your host, Grum, and today is September 11th.
And I'm your host, Jacob Bases. We are so pleased to have on, for the second time, friend of the show, Kaleb Braun-Schulz, here to talk about his new album, The Things You've Kept, You'll Keep Until. Kaleb, tell us what you've been up to since the last time you were at here.
The last time I was at here, that was a long time ago. I think that was during the sort of lead up to the my last album, Nightengale, which was the formation of the Nightengale Band, which is the same band that will be playing with me on this new record. Basically, been kind of just playing a ton of music since the last time I was on here. I've been a part of various different projects and have been sort of... I basically started conceiving of this new album pretty much as soon as the last one was done, so it feels like it's kind of been a really long, sometimes turbulent, crazy road to get here, but it's delightful to be back on the podcast, and it's delightful to have some new music coming out.
You also had the live album in between there, too, the Goldmine. I listen to that all the time.
Yeah.
Got Colin's sticky little fingers all over you.
He's all over
it. Getting those sticky fingers in there.
How about you said you'd been conceiving of it, right, since it started. What does that mean? Do you mean that you were fresh with musical ideas as soon as it came out, or that, where are you coming from there?
So I just kind of, when I'm writing or when I'm, plotting music stuff, I'm pretty goal-oriented. So when the last album was basically wrapped up, I was like, okay, well, now we got to get the wheels spinning for the next album and kind of figure out what direction we're going to be heading. Is it going to be another full band thing, or one idea that I had floating around was to do just a totally stripped back acoustic solo album, but then I was like, what am I talking about? I've got all these super cool players who are willing to work with me on another project, so I better take them up on that. But basically my intention was pretty early on in this process to write another album. So when I started writing, and I think the track on the album, Someday is a Long, Long Time, was the first song that I wrote out of this batch of music. And that's when the album was actually still going to be a unanimously happy album. I was like, I'm going to write a happy album. and then everything kind of blew up in my life. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to write whatever kind of album it is that I need to write now.
Beautiful. I really love that song a lot, too. It's one of my favorite Bastard songs to play. We do it a little different, but yeah, which also sounds great on the album. It sounds phenomenal.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, we got a little sneak peek for the TF family before everyone else, so haha.
And I think that you're all going to like it very much, but I also think that you should tell us what we can expect, because it's not quite the same as the Nightengale album. It definitely has a little bit of a different feel. Tell us what the process of making it was like and who's all involved.
Yeah, so it does have a very different feel from any of my other projects, really, because largely because my EP and the Nightengale album, and actually my first full-length album as well, I kind of just recorded all of those with my own tiny little green guy baby setup of recording gear, and it was all very homespun, recorded in my little music room at home or whatever. And then for Nightengale, obviously, I kind of had to travel around and navigate the pandemic a little bit more with that album. But this time, I actually got a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board, which was a delightful surprise earlier this year to receive that. And I decided to work with Colin Scharf, Mankato, a legend. I believe you guys referred to him on the show once as Mankato's Disco Queen.
Yes.
Which I appreciated that description of him. And I sort of decided to work with him. I figured that he would bring not only a vastly a larger amount of experience than I have with recording, but also I think he approaches music and he has a lot of like his sonic palette is a lot more. It's just a lot different than mine. So I figured that working with him, he would probably pull some things out of myself and the band that we maybe haven't stumbled upon yet or haven't explored as much. And I think there was, I was also hoping for like a little bit of like creative tension, so to speak. Like I was kind of hoping that we would have certain disagreements in the studio, or certain like things where he'd have an idea and I'd be like, I don't know about that. Or I would have an idea and he'd be like, I don't know about that. But then, I thought that would just be really like kind of cool and healthy for the project, honestly. And I think basically everything that I was hoping to get out of the process of working with him happened. I think that his sort of more pop sensibilities, or his sort of more like, I don't know, like dancey sort of effects driven stuff really does shine through on the album. But I think we were able to reach this middle ground where I could still stay true to my own creative vision for the project, while incorporating his expertise and his different perspectives on things. So it was really fun. We recorded it at his Goldmine Studios here in Mankato. And yeah, I think, the whole band and we had a ton of fun working with him. The whole production process has been a hoot, and yeah.
Did you guys do like live tracking, track by track? I guess what was the recording and production timeline like?
Okay, so we actually recorded the entire album. We started in like mid-April and we wrapped in early July. So it was a pretty fast turnaround. We it was a lot of overdubbing. We started with drums, and I really wanted to try to keep as much of a live feeling to the album as possible, while still, working with overdubs. So, what we did is that Cooper, and I went into the studio with Noah, our drummer, and we played live with him as he was recording, and so that he could still kind of he wasn't recording to scratch tracks or anything where he would have to try to fit into the track. It was more so just play it like we would when we play it live.
I totally agree with that method, by the way. I think that's the best way to really capture the live drum feel. We just did the same with Quantum.
Yeah.
And then what was next?
Then we kind of just threw the guitars on. Cooper Fuller, my favorite, wonderful soulmate. He slung some amazing solos and some excellent guitar riffs, and he was messing around with harmony a lot. And then I threw my acoustic on, my little jangly, finger picky sort of business that I get up to. I think from there, Peter Jacobs came in and put some keys on, played some organ, some electric piano. We messed around with some mellotron flutes at various points, and we were kind of, and that was kind of where Colin came in and was really cool about expanding what kind of sounds were on there, was with his synth knowledge and his gear. He has this really cool pump organ in the studio that we threw on a few things. Actually, Cooper played that on a handful of tracks, and that sounded really cool. Our bassist Braden Gatchell came in, laid down some nice bass parts. This is actually the first album of mine where I haven't played bass on it, so that was kind of I was oh, I don't know, I feel wrong not playing bass on the album. But I think he came up with some really nice, groovy, solid.
Yeah, he totally crushed it. And honestly, in my opinion, it felt like a lot of your bass parts too. It felt like he was channeling Kaleb in the process.
Oh, good. I'm glad it came off that way.
Yeah.
He and I have actually, Noah and Cooper and Braden and I have been working together since we were 12 or 13. So I I trust Braden with that bass business.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really cool.
Heck yeah.
And then we had some horns come in. Ryan Shirk, who is just like, I can't say enough good stuff about Ryan Shirk. I just want to like put him in my pocket and take him home and snuggle him. But he's just a freaking champion. And then we worked with a new trumpet player this time around named Brent Ekstrom, who did a really good job as well. And I am pretty sure that's everybody.
Heck yeah. No, that was awesome. I love hearing that nuts and bolty type stuff, especially I'm in the middle of recording 2 projects, so it's cool to hear how everyone likes to do the thing.
And it really is there. The first thing I noticed when I was listening to it was the drums had a really tight and energetic feel. Yeah. And I was talking with Grum before the show, and I was like, it might be because I'm too high information, but it really does feel like they had that. Like you can feel both Colin and Kaleb really coming together in this album, and I think in a way that really complements both. So I think that your tension paid off.
Yeah, it was cool. I think, yeah, again, that difference in perspective, I think can really mine some good stuff out of everybody involved, and I think that goes for this project for sure.
Heck yeah. And were you I guess I'm pivoting a little bit, but were you the person who recorded bass parts on the Pour Le Mule album too?
Yep, I play bass on that whole album.
Heck yeah. So I guess might be a good time to kind of pivot into what's the plan now that the album has been recorded.
Yeah, so this album, for better or worse, I decided to just work on like a crazy nuts schedule timeline for this album. I feel like a lot of the projects that I've been a part of and are really start and stop, and then it takes like a year to record, and then it takes another year for mixing or whatever. And this time I was like, no, let's just get this bad boy done. Yeah. Partially because I'm on the timeline with the Grant project, but also like, I don't know, like I'm a big mark for the Beatles, and they always had like really tight timelines on their albums. So I was like, let's just get in there and get our hands dirty and get this thing knocked out. So the album is coming out on October 18th. And we're doing a big show at the Mankato Brewery, which Triple Falls is producing, which is wonderful. And we're doing a double album release, actually, because what's better than a single album release is a double album release. What could possibly go wrong?
That's Jacob's catchphrase.
It is.
So yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be able to play bass with Ben Scruggs' led project Pour Le Mule. We recorded our album at Adam Tucker's Signature Tone Studios in St. Paul.
I believe so, yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and he was on the last episode too. So yeah, we're really excited about that.
We are also double dipping here at the TF Cast.
Yes, we are.
That's awesome. So yeah, it'll be a fun night. I'm excited to be able to sing some of my songs and then play some bass for Ben's songs.
And then my understanding is that if you pay the price of entry, you get both albums, right? And then all the money goes to Art Center St. Peter.
Yep, that was a really cool part of getting the grant and being able to sort of, they want you to, be able to contribute something to like the arts community. And I was just, I was mulling it around of like, what should I do in that regard? And Art Center of St. Peter just stuck out in my mind because of all the work that they do with. Like they're a huge part of the Minnesota Original Music Fest, which I've been fortunate enough to be a part of. They do a lot of work for other working musicians in the area. They just hosted the Mighty Zack Attack's album release there, and I know they do like the jazz open jam thing, I believe weekly at the Arts Center.
Hot jazz for decent people. That's a TF produced gig.
Yeah. And I just feel like every time I go in there, they always have such like a wide array of art on display. It's such like a diverse collection of art that they and a diverse collection of artists that they support over there, and that was something that is really important to me. And usually, I'm not in a position to like financially donate to things like the Art Center of St. Peter. So being able to have this grant and put on this show, excuse me, and be able to actually like give back a little bit in whatever way that I'm able to do, it really means a lot to me. So yeah, with every ticket purchased to the release show, you get both albums for no additional cost. So my Nightengale Band album, and then Ben's Pour Le Mule record, and all the proceeds from that and any additional merch sales on the night, if you buy like a sticker or a button or whatever the heck it is that we have, all of that stuff will be donated to the Art Center of St. Peter.
Beautiful. Yeah, big fans of the Art Center, huge friend of the cast, every single member. And also shout out Holly Dodge, who's in there right now. She's a big friend of the show, and her show's awesome. Should still be in there when this comes out.
I love Holly Dodge. She inspired me to become a creative writing major, actually.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I totally understand that. She's awesome.
Well,
yeah.
I was going to say that, what is are you feeling immediately inspired to begin writing a third album, or how are you feeling at this point in the recording process? A fourth album, is it?
This whole thing has been such like a whirlwind, and it's been like every recording project I feel like has its ups and downs, and it's like its trials and tribulations along the way. And so like right now, like we're like this close and like to being done with the whole like pre-release side of the record. And so I'm very much just like zeroed in and laser focused on supporting this album and making sure that everything goes smoothly with it, like up to the release and in post release and stuff. I do have some ideas milling about for a new album, but I have a couple of other like musical writing projects that I need to prioritize before I start thinking about another Nightengale Band or Kaleb album.
What about maybe like, do you have any other like content we can look forward to surrounding this album, or do you plan on doing any other like shows or anything to help promote it?
As of right now, most of my energy is just being focused on like the initial release show. We have a couple of different like irons in the fire, as far as other like live performances that could support the album. But as of right now, the release show is really the big one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just circling back quickly to what you had just said about there being a couple of other projects that you had to prioritize. For any Kaleb super fans out there, are there any of those you'd be willing to talk about so you can know about what's on the horizon, maybe?
Oh yeah. So I'm also in a group called New Variant, which has several of the Nightengale Band folk in it as well. And I play bass in that. And mostly I'm just playing bass and singing backing vocals in that. But I also do a bit of writing for it. And we are about to head into the studio with that band this winter. We're working with the Dirty Laundry Records guys to make a new record with New Variant. So I'm sort of like right now, that's kind of my number one like writing music priority is like to generate some ideas or at least some foundational parts to some potential tracks for that album. And then also Cooper and I, because we just can't get enough of each other, we are also like forever working on getting a Super Bastards album made, which is just like kind of becoming a running joke. But after the New Variant album, like the Super Bastards album, getting that guy done and dusted is sort of my next priority. After
we
that,
got to get Cooper on. We can just get Cooper on the show. He can be the Super Bastards episode, and we can learn what he thinks.
That works.
I feel like we're overdue on a Cooper episode.
Finally, he's tired of being silent.
I fully support this idea.
Yeah.
I'll just be standing in the corner with like a baseball bat or something. Just
Sure.
be like,
Yeah.
you
We can
better
put you
watch
on the
it.
guitar stand. Though.
Oh yeah.
That'd
fit
be
on there.
cute. That'd be cute.
That'd be adorable.
Just to speak on that project a little bit, just in case anyone doesn't realize, Super Bastards is a very, it's a, what's the word, malleable project. There's been versions with multiple different people, and they all add their own adjective. For instance, as we were just talking about, Ben Scruggs is super. What is he?
He's duper.
Duper. Yep.
Yes.
I add the word deluxe. I play drums with them sometimes. It's a fun project.
Very deluxe.
We don't really practice.
Nope.
And sometimes I just get to learn songs while we're playing them, and it's a really good time.
It's wild. It's a little unhinged.
Yep.
But
Yeah. Also, like, the name creates such a, because we're all like, well, you two are just such sweet, non-bastardy folk. And so, like, the Super Bastards name and then us playing, like, Beatles tributes and like Nightengale and Cooper songs is such a great. I just love the vibe of it.
yeah, it always takes people a bit off guard, and I love that. And sometimes people are just like, "What? There's kids here in the audience," and we're like, "All right, if you give us a tip, we will not say the name for the rest of the show. We promise."
Yeah. And the last show we played together, we had to go as Super Deluxe Trio.
Oh yes, yeah. Some places straight up will not allow the Bastards moniker. We've run into that a few times. That's always hilarious too, because then it's just like this dirty little secret throughout the course of the show. Yeah, it's really fun. I love those shows. I love the Super Deluxe shows. And, I mean, man, Cooper's. I mean, he's one of, if not my best friend, and I just love spending time with that guy. No matter what we're doing, whether it's music or otherwise. So.
He's very, very good at cueing me too. I think a big reason that we can make it work is Cooper's like, he's like eyes locked with me so much of the show, trying to make sure we're on par. So yeah, Cooper's amazing to play with. I'll play with him anytime, any project.
Oh yeah, he baby.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the songs a little bit before we head out here. So Early Phases just came out. That one, I think I've heard you play live before a few times, and that was really fun. One I had never heard before, though, was Fountain Street, and I really, really liked that one. It felt very Beatles inspired to me. I don't know if that's true, but I could feel that energy in it for some reason. I think it was in the guitar and bass working together specifically.
Yeah,
but,
that's the only song that I play bass on the album, actually.
Well, it makes sense then. You want to speak on that song a little bit for me? I just really like it and want to hear more about it.
So that song is kind of cool. It was one of those songs where I was working on another song, and I was like just like bashing my head against the wall with this other song, and it was just like, oh man, it was like months. I was like hyper focused on writing this other track, and I was getting so frustrated, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, what is going on? And then one day I sat down and I was trying to work on that song, and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to mess around and see what happens. And then I basically wrote Fountain Street within like, it was one of those songs that was written within like an hour and a half. And I was like, oh, this has kind of a cool vibe to it. And, songs that are written so quickly, I typically have less like confidence right away in because I've spent less time with it. So when I brought it to the band, I was like, let's just try this song and we'll just see what happens. But then we were able to establish a pretty cool groove to it, I think. And it's actually, and this is kind of a little fun inside baseball, but that's actually a secret new variant track because the only people that play on it are Noah, Cooper, myself, and then we brought in our friend Trace Hafner to play some cool, like, some gnarly effect kind of guitar stuff, which he specializes in. And I thought that'd be a cool little touch for the album.
I love that.
Yeah, when I brought it to Colin, initially he was like, "This has like a Jimmy Buffett like island kind of feel to it," and I was like, "Oh, we gotta fix that." And so and I was like, "Trace, what are you doing tomorrow?" I knew Trace could knock the Jimmy Buffett right out of that track. So
I love it. That's funny that I totally was like, Man, this one has like, there's something with the way that the bass and guitar are interacting that's so different. And it reminded me of almost like how the Beatles instruments interact. So that's funny. That's the one where you were like, oh, that's me.
Yeah, I needed to have at least one bass track on the song, on the record. So, cause man, like bass guitar does have my heart, I think, as far as instruments go. And I was going to say something else about it, but I forgot. So what? Oh yeah, no. So I had to work in like the most unhinged bass part on the entire album. Like I had to put an entire album worth of bass fiddly bits into one song and try to make it work. That was my bass goal for that track.
Well, I love that track. I also find that the experience you described across all my bands, the music we've put the least work into is always the, or not the least work into, but the least writing efforts into are always the ones that get spoken about post gig the most.
Yeah.
Quantum's interdimensional pansexual was quite literally a joke, and we just kept the bit didn't stop until it was a song.
Oh, I love that song.
Yeah, that's the one everyone always brings up, and same with a lot of the songs with Sfu. A lot of the ones we've labored over every piece of harmony never get brought up, but the one like songs like Gummies that is one chord progression that I wrote in an afternoon. I don't know. It's not a complaint. It's more of a like, maybe I should keep it a little more simple.
Yeah, it's such an interesting phenomenon. Like I feel like that goes for so many artists, and it's like what is going on here?
Yep.
Like what actually is the secret sauce for that sort of like thing? But I don't know. If it works, it works, and if it happens, it happens. So.
That's all it is, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do we have any other notes on the project we want to get to, or anything you want to direct people to before we wrap?
I mean, I just want to say thank you to, there's a couple of co-writes on the album. I wrote, there's a song on there called For Tomorrow that I wrote with my uncle, Andrew Braun. He also co-wrote a song called Spanish Major with me that is on Nightengale and is on the Golden Hour Live EP. So I was happy to be able to work in another track with him. And then there's a song on there called Willow Hill, which I wrote with Jen Melby Kelly, owner of the Coffee Hag. And that whole process of writing with her was super fun too. So I just wanted to make sure that I got those two out there. The art direction is basically a product of my friend Taylor Weir, who I have just loved her art for forever and ever, and was like, someday I will have just the right project to kind of enlist her to kind of take over the art direction. And she did the cover of the single Early Phases, and she has done the cover of the front and back cover of the album as well. And I think it's really sweet.
I love her stuff.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I've been able to work with the guy who produced my first projects, John Bumhofer. He did all the mastering on this new album, so it was good to be able to he's like my comfort zone as far as recording goes, so it was nice to be able to have him. I always
forget that John is your guy. We were in Weathered together.
I didn't know you were in Weathered.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
I was a drum. That was my very first band.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I always forget that he's your mastering engineer. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that guy. He's great.
Yeah. Shout out John. Great guy.
But yeah, otherwise I don't have a ton else. Go listen to Early Phases, and the album is coming out on October 18th, and it'll have a release show, and it's gonna be really fun.
October 18th.
October 18th at the brewery. Oh yeah, at that show, Mal Murphy is gonna be opening things up, and then Alloy, which is Colin Scharf and his wife Laura Schultz, they are awesome, and they agreed to be a part of the show as well. So it'll be a big old multi-act shindig of an event.
That was funny when they got put on the flyer, because I sometimes sometimes play with Alloy, and so I had to text them really fast. I was like, another band I actually can't, because you asked Sfu to play that originally a long time ago.
Yeah.
And we said yes, but then when the date changed it. But anyway, it was just funny that I was like, is another band trying to book that I have to
Zach, we will get you on the show.
But yeah. Well, I'm so excited for both of these albums. You two are two of my closest colleagues in the scene and two people whose music writing I love. By that I meant Ben and you, but also Cooper. Love him so much. Just got to play with Peter recently again. And yeah, I think you really got something here. And I'm so excited for the public to hear it.
Thanks, dude. Great to be back on the cast, too. Thanks again for having me back.
Thanks for coming on the show. And if you want to tell anyone where they can find these things on the internet, or if you just want them all to ask you personally.
What them handles.
Everybody, please just approach me, find me. I tend to stick out in a crowd. It's the yellow pants. But basically everything for this new Nightengale Band album you can find under Kaleb Braun-Schulz. Basically anywhere you get your music and social media. I'm trying to figure out how to get all of that stuff switched over to being Kaleb and the Nightengale Band, but as of right now, it's still just Kaleb Braun-Schulz on all of the streaming services and social medias and things.
Is there KBS Music, or did that change to something else?
My Instagram is Kaleb BS Music.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay. Heck yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thanks. Love you, bud.
Yeah,
we'll see
love you
soon.
too, guys.